This is a brand new revised graphic that my team and I have been using with authors for a number of years to give authors an idea of the various possibilities as it relates to marketing your book. And the most obvious thing about this graphic is what's at the very center of your book marketing efforts, which is your website. And your website is a critical part of your ongoing marketing strategy for your book because it is the place on the internet that you own and control. Quite often I'll see different organizations or individuals, and they want to center their online presence, on their Facebook page or, on their LinkedIn profile. But that's kind of a slippery proposition because LinkedIn owns LinkedIn and Facebook owns Facebook, and your website is really the only place of the internet that you can own. And so that's why it is so important to focus your efforts on your own website primarily. What you're going to notice about this graphic is on that house graphic, we use a house to depict your website. There's some icons here. There's a video icon, and I'm not sure what this one is meant to be, but typically on your website is where you want to create and share your most valuable content. So even though you may, go out to social platforms to get additional exposure for your content, you really want to make sure that all of your content is cataloged on your website so that when people land on your website, they can very quickly understand the value that you have to offer them, the story that you're telling through your book, whatever it is that you have available that you want people to get to know about. It should all be very plain and clear and evident on your website. Now, next to the website, we have a mailbox. And one of the key ways you need your website to perform for you is to convert people to your email list. And that is by far, the most important asset when it comes to your book marketing journey. I have previously done a webinar about your email list, and I would encourage you to go back and watch that one. If you didn't know this, we actually have an entire playlist of book marketing focused webinars, every one that I've done, on our YouTube channel, and we would encourage you to subscribe on YouTube and access all the webinars on that channel. All right, so the website is at the center. I'm very briefly just going to touch on a couple of things. Content marketing is a key way of sharing the value that you have in the world to create interest for your book. And typically that content marketing will happen on your own website. So whether you're creating videos or audio files or a podcast or blog posts, all of that should live on your website. Social media is awesome in terms of attracting followers and being able to find and form those relationships. But ultimately what you want is those people that you're interacting with on social media to come back to your website and convert to your email list. I had a conversation this morning with an author who hasn't put a lot of emphasis on his email list and instead has built a lot of traction on LinkedIn. And as we talked, he said to me, you're really right. LinkedIn's algorithms controls whether or not those 5,000 followers see my content on LinkedIn. On the other hand, when I send out an email, I can have a reliable expectation that it will land in someone's inbox. So I'm going to not go into detail on the rest of these tactics, but the whole idea around displaying them in this graphic like this is just to stay focused on the center, which is your website, which is what we're here to talk about today. So before I go any further and move to the next slide, I do want to mention or ask a question actually, and I'd love to see your answers in the chat if you're comfortable sharing. Now, before I say this, I understand that this question sometimes backfires, but I'm curious for those of you out there, let me ask this question first. Do you have a website? Just give me a quick yes or no. And if you have more than one website, why don't you tell me that in the chat as well? So first, do you have a website, yes or no? And if you have more than one, I'd love to see a number. I see someone has 3. Someone says 1, sort of, making 1 now, a website and 4 blogs, no website yet, multiple websites, but 1 primary. Okay, now the second question is, how many houses do you own? If you are fortunate enough to own a home, how many homes do you own? Now, you would think that most people are going to say 1. I meet a lot of people who have more than one home, and there's no judgment at all about whether or not you have more than one home. But if you do own more than one home, I'd be curious about what the experience is like, because typically the more homes you have, the more upkeep, the more expense, the more, I don't know, headaches, the more bills, the more, and tell me in the chat if there's more. So here's a picture of my home. This is actually a picture of my home from the back. So we're going to get really personal. I happen to live in the country. I'm blessed to live on 5 acres. I took this photo one night when I went out in my backyard to play with my dog, and I turned around and there was this amazing rainbow. So as it relates to thinking about an author website, I guess what I want to say is, while it might be amazing to have more than one home, it might be, I only own one. And when I think about websites, the idea about having only one website is that if you only have one website, you can focus all of your energy and attention on that one website, instead of potentially, you know, the hosting fees and other complications when you have more than one. Now, that said, I will admit that I have more than one website, and there are times that you might need more than one website for your work in the world. But for most of us, especially if we're getting started or just in the beginning of building our thought leadership, or, you know, marketing our first book, one website is typically enough, and enough from the perspective of, wow, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time to keep a website current. So better to have one website. And I see some questions coming to the chat already. You know, how does it work if you're targeting very different audiences? There may be a case for different websites with those genres, Anna, that you're mentioning, that are radically different from one another. But for the most part, I think it's helpful to help people build a mental model of who you are and the ways that all of your work relates. Randy has a question here about the value and coordination of having your author website and then one dedicated just to a book. And by far, that's the question I hear most often. And I'm definitely going to talk to that, Randy. So I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and I'm going to take you to some business book author websites that I brought up in my browser, that I want to be able to use as an example for you today. If you can just give me a quick second. What I've noticed in my journey of serving authors is that many authors, as soon as they come up with a book title, will go and they'll buy the domain associated with their book's title. Can somebody let me know if you're seeing my browser window in the screen share? I want to make sure you're not still looking at my slides. Can someone let me know in the chat? Okay, you can see it. Great, thanks. Alrighty, yes, flux mindset. Okay, so what I've noticed with authors is, as soon as they have the title for their book, like my friend April Rennie has done, they'll go and buy the domain, fluxmindset.com, for example, in this case. And you know, if you're writing your first book, it may make a lot of sense to have a standalone website for the book. At the minimum, to have the domain with the title of the book could be helpful or powerful. Now, where that gets a little bit complicated is when you plan to write more than one book. So imagine, so I know Randy Conley, who works for the Blanchard organization, is on this call. And Randy, maybe you could put in the chat for us how many books Ken has written. You know, if you're going to write 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 books, 65 books like Ken Blanchard, you can't possibly have a standalone domain and 65 websites. So what you're doing when you have multiple websites is you're fracturing people's attention to your work. You're dividing their attention across multiple domains. So this is a client of mine whom I've served in the past. I don't know if that's the right word or not. Mark has written, I think, 9 books. And, you know, at one time, we did have some standalone websites for Mark's books. And as you go, you begin to see that it's more helpful to center everyone's attention on all your books in one place. And for the most part, my recommendation for authors is to buy the domain that has your name, so randyconley.com, and as much as possible to center all your work on that one domain, because as you add more books, you are going to want to help people know about all of them and not be sending people over here for one and over there for the other. And so just like thinking of that, if what you can do when you have more than one book is you can, if you buy the domain for the book title that you're focused on, you can always redirect that. So this is our author, Bonnie Marcus, and this is a individual specific page for her one book. And she has other books, and oh look, here are the other books. So normally what I advise authors to do is to buy their name as a domain and to have individual book pages for each book. And if you do want to buy those title specific domains, you can merely redirect them to be able to keep everything under one umbrella to simplify your online presence and keep people's attention on your domain. So I wanted to show you a few things that I love about some of the websites that I brought up in my browser. So what I love about this website is the way that the art from the book cover is so like nicely integrated in the site itself. I also love the vast number of buy button links that April has included on this site. So one of the things that you always want to be thinking about is you don't want to just send people to Amazon, because if I'm a sales rep for Barnes & Noble and I go to check out your book and I see that all you're doing is sending people to Amazon, then I'm not going to love it. So April is sharing all the love with all the sales sites. I've actually never seen an author with this many links before. Typically, we'll recommend a few key ones like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, potentially your publisher. If you're not aware of bookshop.org, it's an amazing new resource that allows you to buy books from local independent retailers. So I'm a big fan of including this bookshop link. Porchlight is a service for bulk orders of a book. And so what I might typically do on a website is actually indicate, if you want to buy the book in bulk, here's where to go. April has this just with all of her other links, but it's beautiful, isn't it? Like, wow, this gives me the idea that I can get this book absolutely anywhere that I want to shop. So I love that about this site. I also love, this friendly, welcoming author photo. You definitely want to make sure that your own photo is on the homepage of your website, because people want to know who the person is behind the book, and are intrigued to find out more about the author typically. Another thing I love about this book is that April is giving away some of the content of the book. And if I click this link here, I'm going to be able to dig more into, well, what is this book really about? And she is giving me some info to help me decide whether or not I want to buy this book. The only thing that I don't love about this website is that it's not immediately clear to me how I can sign up to hear from April in an ongoing way. She has her join the Flux Mindset Explorers Club at the bottom of her page. And if I want to join, I actually have to click to get that form. So, all in all, I think this is a great representation of a standalone website for a book. And especially, she gets bonus points for all these pre-order and buy buttons for the book. I'm going to take a look at another website. So I brought this one up before. Whitney Johnson is someone I'm a huge fan of. And what I love about her site is it not only houses her thought leadership, her podcast, and her business, but it also is a great place where you can learn about her various books. I know book 4 is coming, but you can see all 3 of Whitney's books. And I think it's kind of fun and fortunate that all 3 of her book covers, are color coordinated. But that is not always the case, right? Which I think is one reason why some authors want more than one site for their books, because they don't match or something like that. So Whitney's site has always, in the time that I've known and supported her work, both as a partner supporting her marketing and then now as a friend, she's always had her website at whitneyjohnson.com, which is really helpful because you always know that's where you find Whitney and her work. I think I might have had one more website pulled up. Okay, here's my friend Jake Jacobs. I don't know if anybody knows Jake. His latest book just launched on Amazon yesterday. So I thought I would show you Jake's. One of the things I like about the way that Jake has put his website together is that he makes it immediately obvious how I can sign up to be on his list by downloading this free guide. So this tactic of creating some free content and giving it away is a fantastic one to build your email list. So he's giving away value. It's value that's related to the title of his book, and he's letting me know about it right when I land on his website. He's talking about his business. And then obviously he has his book displayed in a really fun and unique way here. And he tells me, what I'm going to learn from when I buy his book, Leverage Change, which I did yesterday. I love the personal touch of some video. You may want to consider video for your homepage. And then again, he offers this value to draw me in to be a part of his email list. So those are just a few things. This is quite a long page. I will own that I did not look at Jake's book page. This is a brand new website for Jake. It looks like he has his other books listed on the website in a simple format as a multi-author, multi-book author. So when you want to think about your author website, I think one of the most important things is making your message as clear as possible. And you always want to make sure that people can very quickly see what you do in the world and how they can benefit from it. So I noticed that my friend Roy has his hand raised. And Roy, if you would like to come over as a panelist and ask a question, I'd be more than happy to bring you over. If you could let me know in the chat, then I'd be happy to welcome you over, and I'd be happy to answer your question. Oh, it was an error. Man, it would have been nice to see you, no problem. If there is anyone on the other side of the webinar who would like to come over as a panelist, you are welcome at this point to go ahead and use that hand raise function. Otherwise, what I'm willing to do right now is if anyone has an author website that they'd like me to look at and comment on, I promise I'll be kind. Or if you have any other questions about the important components of an author website, just very quickly, I discussed, you want to make sure that your positioning, your message is clear. You want to make sure that you have buy buttons to multiple sites. You want to make sure that you're making it easy for people to sign up for your list. And Charlotte has asked me if I would like to go to her website. And so I'm going to bring it up and I will comment about it. I one time was at a conference where someone did this and their whole shtick was to be rude and mean. And I have no idea why anyone would sign up for that. All right, so Charlotte, great to meet you. I love that you own your own name. I love that you tell us right away who you are, a beekeeper, an author, and a gardener. I like the pop-up for your garden notes and that you're telling us what we're going to receive. It's weekly, so I know how often I'm going to hear from you. And you're telling me that I'm going to get gardening, bookkeeping, cooking, and home decor tips, and maybe book updates too. So that's very friendly and helpful to know what I'm signing up for. And here is your book. So I have old eyes. Can you see I'm leaning into the computer? I might make this even bigger for people with old eyes like mine because I can't read your subtitle. I can hear though. So you have some info about your book. And so what I'm missing right now is like to know exactly where to buy it in a bold way, like with a buy button. So what I see missing so far, Charlotte, is the buy button. I don't know if I have to go to another page to buy the book, if I'm going to buy it from you, if I'm going to buy it on Amazon. So there's some feedback. So let me see what happens when I click that. Aha, it looks like I'm going to someone else's website. So Charlotte, you get extra points because even though I went to someone else's website just now, I didn't leave your website entirely. So I was able to get back to your website really easily. So good job with that. So I think my key feedback, another key feedback piece is I don't see your picture here. I sort of see it right there tiny, but I would love to know who Charlotte Ecker-Wiggins is when I land here. I would like something more about the author. What does it mean that you're a beekeeper and a gardener? What qualified you to write these books? I think also I'm not super clear on who these books are for. Are these for kids? Are they for grown-ups? So this is just like my immediate feedback. I know there is some copy here that if I read it, I might get, but I want you to make it even easier for me. So Charlotte, is that helpful? I hope. I hope. And if you'd like to come over and talk, a bunch of people gave me websites to look at. Okay, I'll look at as many as I can. We have 8 more minutes. I'm gonna have to maybe give less feedback on the others. Keith, I'm gonna bring yours up next. I promise to be kind. I hope I'm kind. Oh shoot, I gotta copy paste your link. For some reason, Keith, yours did not come up as a hyperlink. So I'm going to do Keith. I see Anna. And all right, Keith, let's take a look at yours. So Keith gets points. I'm going to share my screen here. Keith gets points. His picture is right on the homepage. So I'm really quickly getting to know where Keith is. And I like that you have your name and author. I right away know that you write fantasy, medieval, romance, fiction, and that you're from Albany. That's good. I like to be able to orient where I am. I like that you have this subscribe button on the page, and I might like a little bit more information about what I'm signing up for. So what do you mean by the latest news? Do you mean your newest books? Do you mean I don't know, your personal news? So I'd like a little bit more info before I would want to sign up. You are saying exclusive content, but what do you mean? Like a sneak preview of your new book? Insight into the writer's world, is that insight about the writer's process? So maybe just a bit more clarity. I'd like to see some covers of your books on this page. I don't want to have to click away to know what your books are called or where to find them. I find this navigation to be very crowded and cluttered. So I might like to see this navigation cleaned up a bit. All right, so Keith, I'm gonna move on and bring up Anna's real fast so that we can get to as many of these website reviews as possible. Oh, I have Keith twice. Let me copy paste that again. And I'm not looking at the chat. If there's a lot, yeah. All right, so it looks like Anna's the last one who's shared her link. So if you're finding this fun, I'm so glad. I find it super fun. It is my greatest joy to meet and help authors, and I'm glad that we have this time to spend together today. So let me quickly, I'm going to share my screen. We'll take a look at Anna's website together. I also love that the authors today represent some different genres than we usually work with. That's kind of fun. All right, every time I'm going back to my slides. Here's Anna's website. So I like, Anna, that you have your book covers. I would love to see you update this copyright of 2010. What I want to know when I get to your website is that it's current. And if something like that is it jumps out at me. Anna, I would love to see your photo. I would love to know a bit more about you as an author. I'd love to have these buttons for available on Amazon bigger, because like I said, I have old eyes. Just a little bit about that for you, Anna. I hope that helps. All right, so yes, Randy says imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Looking at other authors' websites is helpful for ideas and modeling for our own. You know, typically when people come to us and they want info, I'm going to try to do one more of these. Cindy, great to meet you, Cindy. I feel like I know your name. Let me share my screen again, and let's take a quick look. I feel like I know Cindy's name. Cindy, I love your handwriting. I bet this is your actual handwriting. I don't love that your book cover is covered up when I first land on the site. I'd love to be able to see the whole thing when I first land here. I might incorporate, if your book is for sale other places more than just Amazon, in my earlier point. Oh, I love your beautiful photo. I love that it jumps out at me that you're a memoirist, because when I first saw the book, I guess if I read the subtitle, I would know that it's a memoir. That happens to be my favorite kind of book to read. OMG, how are you old enough for grandchildren is my comment, and I hope it's not ageist. So I love that. I love that you tell us where you live. So all good there. There's more about your book. I like that too. I like the book reviews. Book reviews on the homepage are a great idea. So it looks like you have more than one book. I might incorporate that in your bio, like telling that you have both, or I might even try to incorporate something on this banner so that we can see both books at once. I'm guessing Don't Fight Mad must be the latest one that you're highlighting. But before I scroll, I might want to know that you have more than one. Related to speaking, I'd love to see an action photo of you here speaking, or I'd like to know what type of events you speak at, not only just your topics. And as it relates to subscribing, I want more detail about how often you're going to send email, what you're going to send, and why I'd want to sign up. I don't find subscribe to be a particularly wonderful call to action. Most people don't really want to subscribe for anything new. Looks like you've been a guest on a bunch of podcasts. That's awesome. And I love that you're representing them visually. And I love that you have your other media down here. So yeah, on the whole, I find your site, Cindy, to be really like modern, welcoming. So I hope that helps. I like it too. It's pretty, and I love the photo. I don't know what you were laughing at, Cindy. But yeah, the site looks fantastic. Leonard wants to know if Cindy built the site herself. So we are pretty much out of time today, and I'm sad about that, but I will let you know that this webinar is part of a series. And see, I don't know what slides I have actually. The next one is called Ask Me Anything About the Author Journey. And so since I got my book contract in February, I've gotten kind of first row seat to what it's like to experience the traditional publishing process. I've been marketing books for a decade. So, join me next month, June, whatever date it says. I trust the slide more than I trust myself. I think it's June 3rd, 2nd. And it will be a complete like Q&A. You can ask me anything about the author journey. You can send me questions in advance. And I would look forward to spending that time with you. If there's any way that we can support your book marketing journey, I'm always happy to connect with you on my website at weavinginfluence.com. We do have a book marketing course available at courses.weavinginfluence.com. You can find my personal author website at beckyrobinson.com, but please don't judge it. We're redoing it to prepare for my new book. I would always be happy to schedule time with you. You can send me a text message. You can follow me on Instagram. And I'm grateful for your participation with me today. So have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you next month.